And a lot of people are like, why would you get a polka dot guitar with bow tie inlays? Randy Rhoads, are you serious? Only one of like the top 3 reasons why I play guitar. Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads. I like to go stand in front of the mirror and I like to play Crazy Train and I like to do the... This is so weird. It's a flying V, but it's thicker. It's got 21 frets and it's got polka dots with bow tie inlays and a shark fin headstock that looks like it's gonna be like OJ used it. You know, when anybody walks on stage and they play this guitar from across the arena, you're paying homage to one Randy Rhoads. I think it was October 27th, 1995. At one point, guys, I had a good memory before I started smoking pot. I had been waiting for the album Osmosis to come out from Ozzy Osbourne, which was the beginning of the end for a lot of the Ozzy albums. Perry Mason was such an amazing song. In fact, I heard that song on the radio, and it was the first time I ever said to myself, I like this Ozzy guy. I had already heard Mr. Crowley, I had already heard Crazy Train, all these songs, and I'm just like, they sound like classic music. Whereas like Perry Mason, who can we get on the case? We need squeal, squeal, squeal. Fuck, what is this shit? It's the Prince of Darkness. I said something pissy to my parents, and they're like, you are not getting that Ozzy record that you've wanted. What does my brother do? Like a dick, goes and buys the Ozzy record, which I'm not allowed to buy. My parents have said it's verboten. I think, with my little mind, what can I do? Well, I'm not allowed to buy Osmosis, but maybe at this record store, there's another Ozzy record. And I see Ozzy Osbourne Randy Rhoads Tribute. Wow, what a great day to be grounded. Because my brother got home and listened to Osmosis. He's like, there's 2 good songs on this record. I got home and listened to Randy Rhoads Tribute, and it blew my mind. It's like the first time, you know, like you're sitting there and you start playing with your thing and you're like, oh my God. And you're like, I can do this myself? That was how excited I got when I heard the guitar solo on Suicide Solution. I had never heard anything like that. In fact, this was pre-Van Halen for me. The funny part is when I actually heard Eruption on the radio for the first time, and I said, is that Randy Rhoads? And I distinctly remember just hearing the whole studio laugh like, kid, that's fucking Van Halen. But the only time I'd ever heard playing like that was when Randy Rhoads did that crazy solo in the middle of Suicide Solution. And if you've listened to Ozzy Osbourne Randy Rhoads Tribute, it is like the best 77 minutes in live recorded history. That lineup of Ozzy was the best. The guy died at 27. Mr. Crowley, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the greatest rock solos from the way that it's just classically composed to beautifully, it's tripled. So like the Randy Rhoads thing that Max Norman, his producer, did at the time was, Randy was such a great player, he played every solo on that record, on those 2 records, Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz, 3 times. One out the left channel, one out the right channel, and one straight down the middle. Everyone was just like, oh, I'm just gonna improv it like, you know, Freebird. And then Randy Rhoads is sitting there with his little notebook being like, okay, if I go to the Aeolian here, it'll be a really... He was more interested in classical guitar, he was more interested in music theory than he was interested in playing metal. Randy got asked to go up in a plane. The story goes that the guy who was flying was a little bit under the influence, was fighting with his wife, decided he was gonna try to skim the bus, you know, just to scare everybody, and instead hit the bus, went into a house, and killed Randy Rhoads and a few other people. If you think about it, he recorded with Quiet Riot in like 77 to 79, made like 1 album, there's like the Randy Rhoads recording. And then he did Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, which were recorded almost back to back, which are like 70 minutes worth of music, 80 minutes worth of music. That's it, guys. That's it. The influence that he had in such a short amount of time, with his bow tie on, playing with no shirt, his Gibson Les Paul, his Sandoval V, bigger than this dude was. I remember specifically listening to Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman and Ozzy Osbourne Tribute over and over and over, and thanking my parents for grounding me, because I don't know if I would have bought that record. I would have bought Osmosis. That live show that they captured in 1982 with Randy Rhoads is the epitome of what Ozzy Osbourne was for me. And those riffs from I Don't Know, Crazy Train, Believer, Goodbye to Romance, Over the Mountain, You Looking at Me, Looking at You, which is a B-side, but it's fucking awesome. It's incredible to think that in such a short period of time, someone made such a great mark. Every one of his guitars has mattered. His 1974 white Gibson has made every 74 Gibson worth so much more money. His original Concord Flying V was almost unplayable because the way they had put the fretboard, it was like down here to play up high. The Jackson, now known as the Randy Rhoads, has been infinitely copied, and there's 1,000 million versions of it because Randy Rhoads influenced everybody. Literally anyone you talk to from the 80s that you go, who was your influences? It's Eddie Van Halen and it's Randy Rhoads. Now this guitar is a monster. It's a copy of Carl Sandoval's Flying V, which is a very strange guitar the way it was made. If you look at Sandoval's guitars, he made a guitar for George Lynch, he made a guitar for Eddie Van Halen, and he made this guitar for Randy Rhoads. There's no question that Randy Rhoads and this V changed history. Pretty much an exact replica, except that it has a Floyd Rose, which the original had like a crappy Fender bridge. Like it's almost a joke. And it has an ebony fretboard versus rosewood. And you see a ton of copies. Now there's a lot of cheap overseas copies, and you can get them for like $300-400. They mostly suck. Then if you get a Carl Sandoval, they're in the $8,000 to $9,000 range. They're super expensive. This is probably a $4,000 to $5,000 guitar. It's a custom build. It's dead on balls. We got a 35th anniversary DiMarzio PAF, which he had a DiMarzio PAF. And a Seymour Duncan. I want to say it's a JB is what he had. Whatever Randy had is what it was. And if you go and look at the pictures, originally it had white knobs, but later it was changed to black knobs. I believe you get it from Carl Sandoval. He has the white knobs, but Randy in his lifetime changed them to the black knobs, and I think it looks aesthetically better. The way it was made was he took off the neck of a Dan Electro, because back in the day when people were Frankensteining guitars, you know, like for Eddie Van Halen and all that, people liked the Dan Electro necks. And what he did is realize he could not put it on a normal Flying V body, so he had to make it a little bit thicker to fit it into the neck pocket, which, as you can see, like this one is like beautifully put together. Like it just feels amazing. So the funny part is all the dots on Randy's original guitar were just a Dan Electro dots, and then these bow ties were cut out by Carl Sandoval. Believe it or not, Randy broke the headstock on this guitar in like the first 2 weeks and went back to Carl all upset, and like Carl fixed it, but it supposedly never stayed in tune. So just like the Jackson Concorde, like this guitar was never really that good for him. Like it was always going out, like he made it sound good. He made it sound good because it's Randy Rhoads. It does play pretty nice, and I like the fact that the input jack is down here. It sounds pretty good too. It's a crazy guitar. The reason I'd play this would be to go up and show my respect for Randy for a song. It's literally a Frankenstein Dan Electro. It does make it look like you could probably go up to Mick Mars and give him an occipital lobotomy. Randy Rhoads, to me, along with so many other people, means so much. Every song, every solo, I have goosebumps. Every solo was so well composed and was so genius in its own way. Sometimes people say, like, you know, less is more. And in the case of Randy Rhoads, there is nothing that he did that I've heard that wasn't genius. His understanding of music, his love for composing, it was the perfect thing for Ozzy Osbourne coming out of Black Sabbath. Like, where do you go from playing with Tony Iommi and writing some of the heaviest riffs of all time? You go to Randy Rhoads. And for me, as a child, that was a step up. And this guitar reminds me of everything that made me want to get into music. October 25th, 1995, I thank my parents because they grounded me. And that was the day that I figured out that Randy Rhoads was everything. Why don't you fucking smash that subscribe button already?